Hi, my name is Jake, and I saw tons of movies this year. Like, so many. I got them written down in the order in which I kind of watched them, which is kind of when they came out. Let's get right into it. The King's Daughter. Holy Christ. We did our top 3 worst of the year. If we had a 4th spot on that list, this would be the 4th worst one. Death on the Nile. I love the first murder movie. I super love this one. I think this is better than that first one. I think Kenneth Branagh is spectacular as a director. He is so talented. I could watch 100 more of these before the sun burns out of the sky. Please, just keep bringing them on. Uncharted, this movie blows. It is, by default, one of the best, if not maybe the best video game movie ever. That score should tell you a lot about the video game movie genre. It's kind of terrible, but the third act is actually kind of fun. I'm not going to lie. I enjoyed myself towards the end, but yikes. The Batman is fucking awesome. We saw it twice the week it came out before it even came out. We saw it once on Tuesday, once on Thursday, then it opened on Friday. Wow, I'd watch it 10 more times. That's how good it is. I'm so excited about it, and I'm really excited for more of Matt Reeves' Batman stuff. We have super long videos talking about this, so I'll keep this pretty brief, but I just want to say that this is my favorite version of Gotham City in all of media. Gotham really is if not the central character, and I think that's really cool how that was done. The Adam Project, this is a pretty good movie. Ryan Reynolds doing his thing. Kid Ryan Reynolds doing Kid Ryan Reynolds thing, I guess. I don't know. It just gives me confidence for Deadpool 3 because the same director is being carried over. So, hell yeah, it's a good watch. Give it a shot. Morbius. Sonic 2. This movie is awful. We have a big old debate about it because we have one person who loved it, one person who was mixed about it, and me, who was the guy who hated it. It's a pretty funny review. You should check it out. But I'll keep it kind of brief. I just think there's barely anything to like here. It's just really distilled, watered-down jokes aimed towards small children, and a bunch of comedy that's not at all funny. So when you have nothing left, what do you have? Everything Everywhere All at Once. This is my second favorite film of the year. It is so goddamn good. Please go watch it. Support A24. They make heaters like this one, and occasionally a weird movie like Climax. The Northman. Robert Eggers coming at it again. I think this is my second favorite film from him, because Lighthouse is top tier. Like, top 20 all-time Lighthouse, right? Then it's either this or The Witch. I know those are the only 3. There's only 3 of them, but like, damn, I love all 3 so much. I love him, and I want to see him succeed in all of his endeavors. Fresh. This is surprisingly a great movie. It looked terrible. I hated the trailers. And you watch this movie, and it's like, wow, Sebastian Stan is bringing his A-game. The writers brought their A-game, too, which I didn't expect. And wow, it's just really well done, well crafted, an excellent thriller if you're in the mood for it. Doctor Strange 2. Yeah, it's all right. I mean, I don't know. I feel kind of the same as I did when I first watched it, where it's like, not the best, not the worst. It's decent. It's better than Thor Love and Thunder, also this year. It's not as good as Black Panther Wakanda Forever, also this year. In the end, Sam Raimi kind of pulls it together. Illuminati didn't bother me too much, but it kind of did bother me because, like, great, we're never going to see these characters. That's great. That's really great that you just murdered them all. Spoilers for this almost year-old movie. Our Father. This is probably my favorite documentary this year, right up there with Senior. We'll get to that later. This is a chilling documentary. If you haven't even heard of this story, just oh my god, go look up just the log line. The log line of this movie. Just a quick little, like, 2-sentence blurb. How could that have even happened? Somebody made that up, right? Shit's real. Top Gun Maverick. This movie is so good. This and Nope just beg to be seen in the theaters. I love the entire third act. I think it is like a near flawless third act. I think Tom Cruise is bringing his A-game. This is bona fide better than Top Gun 1, and I love Top Gun, don't get me wrong, but I wouldn't put Top Gun on like an all-time list. This shit's, it's indescribable how good it is. It's like, why is it this good? It shouldn't be this good, but it's really that fucking good. Jurassic World Dominion, I'm very mixed on it. I love a lot of what they do, especially in the third act, and I love the character moments, specifically for characters that we already know. I hate the pacing and the structure, and I hate the fact that they make just the most shittiest versions of dinosaurs now, where it's like, oh, but they're assassin dinosaurs, they're gonna come kill you. That sounds cool, but it's done in like the most boring way. Like, you watch that chase scene and there's like no stakes and you don't care at all. I don't know. And then they marketed it as like the end of the saga, and then critics were like, oh, the wells run dry on this series. No, it hasn't. You could have written an awesome movie. They chose to write a terrible movie, and people are saying, oh, we ran out of steam. Well, you wouldn't have run out of steam if you had done it well. What a freaking premise. I'm sorry to go off on this so long, but like, what a premise, bringing back the original and the new cast, the ones that you've spent 3 movies with each investing yourself into. That shit writes itself. Are you shitting me? You dropped the ball on this? This is the one you dropped the ball on? I'm only so passionate about it because I really did enjoy like half of it. It was so strong, and then it was not. Lightyear. This is a good movie. If this is Pixar's worst, then they're one of the best studios of all time. I'll say it. They're the best studio of all time. In terms of consistent quality, they're just top tier. You can't beat them. As far as the movie itself goes, I really like the character of Buzz Lightyear. I think watching him grow as the movie progresses is actually really interesting, which I didn't expect because he's kind of a one-note type of character, but they really do find a way to like make him grow and flesh him out, and I'm really invested in that character's story. Thor: Love and Thunder. This is the weakest MCU movie this year, not the worst Marvel movie that got bailed out real hard. Man, oh man, this movie's okay. I don't hate it. I like it slightly better than Ragnarok, but I didn't like Ragnarok all that much. I think it takes the best elements of Ragnarok and mixes them with the best elements of Thor 1, a film that I starkly defend. I think Thor 1 is awesome. I feel like it's not the worst Thor. It's probably the second best Thor. But what I really mean by saying that is it's the third worst Thor. Like, I think aside from Thor 1, none of them are great. 365 Days This Day. This is one of 2 sequels to 365 Days, or 365 Denis, which is even funnier. I like this one better than the other sequel, which we'll also talk about this year. This one is slightly sexier than the other one. Sorry, it's hard to keep a straight face. Nope. I mentioned Top Gun Maverick and this need to be seen in theaters. Oh my god. On the big screen. All of these shots where you're looking up at the sky, you're just trying to find it, trying to see if it's there. And then you just see a brief glimpse, and it's like, oh my god. It's so suspenseful. And it's so well written because Jordan Peele wrote it. And it's so well directed because Jordan Peele directed it. Like, god fucking damn it. I love this movie. It is my second favorite Jordan Peele. I think Get Out is top tier. And I think Us is his weakest. I think this is so strong. And if it weren't for the fucking shoe at the beginning, you know what I'm talking about if you've seen it. If it weren't for that, which makes no sense and doesn't belong in the movie, it's a perfect movie. Straight up. Prey. This is the second best Predator movie, maybe the best. I'd have to rewatch the original about it, but like, this is such a good movie. And I love Predators with Adrian Brody. I know that's like a piping hot take. I like that movie a lot. This beat it. This is so good. I love the characterization. I love the story. I love the production design. I love the way the camera moves. It looks beautiful. It's an awesome movie. And it has some John Wick level action at points. I'm not saying it's as good as John Wick. It's simply not. But it's awesome. It is so rewarding. I like the way that because this takes place before Predator in 1980s with Arnold Schwarzenegger, that the Predator's weapons are also less advanced. Not because they're probably less advanced. They might be. They might purposely choose less advanced weapons to match approximately the weapon level of the humans, even though they have like bombs and cloaking and all this kind of stuff anyway. But I just like that idea that like maybe they have every single volume and level of weapon ever that could wipe out all of life, but they're hand selecting weapons that are just slightly better than whatever time period they're in just to fight a roughly even level. I think that's really interesting. After Yang. This movie is really cool. It's an interesting premise, and I really like Colin, I almost said Firth, Farrell's performance in it. And I love the themes that it's addressing, but I think the themes that were being addressed in this have been addressed better in other types of movies, even from the same studio. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm positive, but not over the moon about it. Sharkula. Second worst movie of the year. 3,000 Years of Longing. Oh my god. This movie is awesome. It's great. I didn't even know George Miller directed it until I finished the whole film and it said George Miller in the credits, and I was like, oh, shit. I was just sold in the trailer alone. Idris Elba getting all big in that hotel room, and he's like, oh, I'm a genie. Like, that's, I don't know. I was sold right from that shot. Like, oh yeah, count me in. It's really interesting. It asks you to ask a lot of questions, and it's really rewarding when you start thinking about them and piecing together bits of the movie. There are still parts of the movie that I'm not entirely sure about, but that's not a bad thing. I would sooner rewatch this than a lot of others on this list. I've only seen it once. I feel like that's a crime. I want to re-experience it. Triple R. This movie is awesome. I'm a huge fan of Bollywood. I shouldn't say huge fan. I'm a pretty big fan of Bollywood. I like the good ones. I also like the ones that people don't like, which are the Singham movies, the cop universe movies, all 4 so far. I'm so excited for Indian Police Force coming out this year. Let's go! But I'm really excited about RRR going into it because, hey, it's actually not Bollywood, it's Tollywood, but it's one of those kinds of movies that's getting mainstream recognition. Always happy to see that. And yeah, it is a 3-hour epic. It is exactly what it looks like. If you watch the trailer and you're like, huh? It's exactly that. It's 3 hours of that. All my friends hate me. This is the best movie of the year. Straight up. This is a movie that takes that feeling you get when you don't know if you're being pranked or not and channels that and weaponizes it. It is so fascinating to watch these scenes unfold with this main character who doesn't know what's happening, but you as the audience also don't. If you watch it a second time, you are just as confused as the first time. You'd figure a rewatch is like, I have all the answers now. This movie fucks with you more than once in many ways. It is so interesting. I love this fucking movie. I've never seen any movie that's done what this movie does. This is, by all accounts, a unique film. This is awesome. I so strive for movies like this to exist. It is a masterpiece. And I use that word very, very, I don't like to throw it around a lot, but it just is what it is. I should warn you, if you want to go watch that because I'm giving it such high praise, stick through it. You're going to want to turn it off after like 20, 30 minutes. You're going to be like, wow, this is like so cringy, I can't even handle it. Force yourself through it. You're going to like it. Don't worry, darling, this movie's ass. Yeah, no, the critic reviews are spot on. This is real tough to get through. It's the kind of thing where the more you think about it, the more problems arise, the more questions get raised, and the less sense it makes, and it already didn't make sense when you first watched it. It's like, whoa, okay, so how do I even process, like, how any of the world works? Because the movie keeps introducing elements of this world that, like, oh, hey, and this is how this happens, and you're like, that's not possible, because then you also told me this, and that. So also over here, what's up with the fucking plane in the air? It's not even significant. Doesn't matter. It's just a device to get it over there. But like, how can there be a plane? Why would you program in a plane? So there's just so much. There's so much to try and unpack. I could spend another video as long as this one just talking about what doesn't make sense in this film, but I will spare you. And you should spare yourself of the experience of watching it in the first place. Elvis. This movie is actually really good, but it really does suffer from the biopic curse. The walk hard, the Dewey Cox story formula, the one that Bo Rap used. It's just that. It's literally just that. Down to the little details like, oh, when he's first performing and he says in the microphone, it's got a bunch of feedback because he's nervous, and that's what that means. It's everything like that. But I gotta say, it's really well directed. Like, it's a Baz Luhrmann film. It's great. Austin Butler. If nothing else, this movie deserves recognition only for that. Like, he's amazing. You cannot discount this man's performance. He nails Elvis, not just as a character, as an impersonation, but at different periods of his life, in different frames of mind that Elvis would be in. Like, that's a hard thing to do. Austin Butler deserves all of the praise and glory, and I hope he gets at least nominated. We'll find out soon, though. Hot take, the Depp Heard trial. I just talked about amazing acting. This movie's ass. It's very disrespectful. It makes no sense. I watched the trial just in my own time. I have the kind of job where I can put in headphones and listen to things, so I just listen to, like, the 10-hour-long trials. This movie, since I was such an astute expert on the trial, I figured, oh, I'll just, pop on the, what is it, not even Hallmark version? It just feels like it. The only reason it is a 1 out of 10, which is really generous, like, I'm really throwing a softball towards this movie here, is because the guy they got to play Johnny Depp is fucking perfect. Like, I forgot that wasn't Johnny Depp. Like, it's, having spent so long listening to the trial, I'm so acquainted with this man's voice, and he just nails those mannerisms. Like, he's dead on. Like, I could buy him. And then the flip side of that coin is that the Amber Heard actress is awful. She's like 10 years too old. It just it doesn't make sense. Whatever. This movie sucks anyway. The Munsters, it's the worst movie of the year. Hands down. Like, you can't even. Sharkula came close, but it's kind of trying to be bad. It's a whole other thing. The Munsters is the Munsters. Oh my god. Commentary went up on the channel like a few weeks ago. Yeah, no, it's that bad. Just watch it for yourself. Jeez. Amsterdam. I had a lot of anticipation for this movie. It was a David O. Russell film. It's got a star-studded cast, all of which are people that I like in other things. And I think this movie really dropped the ball. It just wasn't anywhere near as good as it could have been. There are some interesting scenes, interesting directions, but I don't have any reason to go back to it or remember it in any way. Man, I really don't know what to say about this movie. I'm very mixed. On the one hand, it's very well directed. It tells an excellent story with some real... How do I put this? It's got really good themes, and the performances are great, but that's not even what the movie's kind of going for. I don't want to say devolves. I feel like I'm being rude, but it just kind of turns into this weird art house piece that lasts like a half hour long in the third act. It's as if they didn't care enough to resolve the story, and they were like, well, let's just do some weird shit that has some symbolism with men giving birth to men and men and men and men. And I get it. I understand. But you can do that thematically while telling an interesting story too, like you had been. The first 2/3 are really strong. I think they ask a lot of questions. I'm excited to see them answered. Not answered. I'm mixed on it because I do see the merit in it, and I do see the fascination one would have with this movie. And I had it myself. It's so cool to see. But I don't know. It's just not the kind of movie that I would soon go back to. Emily the Criminal is awesome. This is on my top 10. Number 10. Barely on there, but it is on there. Worthy of recognition. Holy crap. This movie is so good. I love the themes for modern day, as in, oh, well, student loans are destroying her whole life because of this felony that she can't get a good job. Like, of course she'd go down that path. Shit, I'd go down that path if I were in her shoes. The movie paints it in a really interesting light where you can see a lot of different sides of this same problem that's affecting a lot of different people. And on top of that, it's just a great story. It's a great movie. Got a little bit of a romance in there. It's a good time. I recommend it to anybody over the age of a certain age because it's R-rated, I think. But it's great. The Black Phone. I really like this movie. This was on my top 10 for a long time until I saw a lot of more stuff. But, like, it's really good. C. Robert Cargill? I don't know how to say his name, but he's a very talented writer. He wrote the first Doctor Strange and a couple other horror things. And I'm really, really up on this movie. I think it's really good. It's based on the Joe Hill story. And I haven't read that, but now I kind of want to because this movie is that good. Black Adam. The hierarchy of power in the DC universe sure did change. It's so stupid because Black Adam is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's, like, baby. Like, his pet project that he's had. His passion project for, like, 15 years, because in 2007 they announced him for Black Adam and Shazam. Look it up. Imagine spending 15 years of your life just to get a movie like this where nothing's developed, every character loses to Black Adam in a fight, and there are no stakes. You have the same bad guy that's been in superhero movies for 100 years. Like, there's nothing here. There's nothing of substance here. It's like 10 other Marvel movies jumbled together and they slapped the DC logo on it. Like, this is your passion project? This is what you waited so long for? Fucking James Cameron spent 13 years making Avatar 2. That shit looks flames. This is ass. Bros, this movie's hilarious. I love this movie. Me and a buddy of mine, both of us being straight, I don't know if it's not relevant at all, but I figured I'd bring it up. We just died laughing at this movie. It is so funny. It is so well written. Just when you think it's going to get a little heavy-handed and pandering, it switches it up right away and just insults everybody involved, including the people that it's on the side of. And I really appreciate that. I like that it just doesn't hold back. It takes pot shots at every demographic, every ism, every age, every race. I like it. I like that a lot. My only real criticism is that it kind of devolves back into a normal romantic comedy by the end. But fucking damn it, there hasn't been a gay romantic comedy that's, like, high profile enough on this level in a long, long time, if ever. So, fucking the gay community deserves a stock romantic comedy ending at this point. Straight people get them, like, 50 times a year. The Rings of Power episodes 1 and 2, I saw them not in theaters, but it counts because it was released in theaters. Wow, this is a rough start to a show that I was really excited for. I ended up finishing the season, and I'm glad I did. The season rating I would give like a 5 out of 10. These first 2 episodes are that score. I think this show lives and dies by its pacing, especially in the first 2 episodes. Episode 2 is better than episode 1. 1 is like literally the worst of the whole show. Why did you lead off with episode 1? It's so terrible. You could have rewritten so much of it. You could have dissolved most of it and combined episode 1 and 2 into a really good episode 1. But I don't know why they chose to do what they did. The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. I really like this movie. I think Nick Cage is bringing his A game, and this is such a cool idea for a movie. The producers apparently like pitched it to him like 3 or 4 times before he said yes. He kept saying no because, understandably, it sounds like the weirdest, dumbest movie ever made. In many ways, it kind of is, but it knows that and it's having fun with that. And I think it's just really fun. It's a fun time, and I'm really glad he said yes. Because seeing now Nick Cage talk to de-aged Nick Cage, decaged if you will, with some of the best deep faking, because it's probably a deep fake, but like some of the best facial CGI we've seen recently in film, it's pretty good. I would say that this movie is worthy of anybody's time who likes Nick Cage as an actor, who is like at all aware of like the whole like Nick Cage kind of jokes. Like it plays into that. And it happens to also be a heartwarming story at the end of it, too. So it's a good time. Blonde. This movie is very dark and depressing. It's like Manchester by the Sea type sad. It is fine. It's not the worst. When the Razzies released that turkey video for Thanksgiving, they put this as one of the posters. I hope this doesn't get like 10 Razzie nominations. Ana de Armas did the best with what she had. That's nobody's fault like that. The director, the creative decisions behind it, sure, I'm all with you. Like, wow, that's kind of rough to get through, but this is not one of the worst of the year by any means. I think it's fine. I just think it's probably the weakest biopic this year. Wendell and Wild, I love the first 2/3 of this movie. I think after a certain point, I think it's the second act low point, it just kind of devolves into like generic, oh, let's go stop the thing and save the day, and like, I don't know. I feel like you could have developed a little bit more with the characters at that point, but in any case, it's very well animated. It's beautiful to look at. And that's obviously on purpose. It's the Coraline director who hasn't been doing anything in like 100 years. So I'm really glad that he's back doing his thing. It shows, the passion shows in most of it. And Jordan Peele, Key, they're just so good. Their voices, they carry it. You got to have some charismatic actors behind those roles. Otherwise, it's just like a strange, sad movie like Coraline. Like, they add purposely some like charisma and personality to the movie, and you feel that bleed through when you watch it, and it's really rewarding for it. Mad God. This movie is fucking awesome. I was just talking about how Men had this like weird art house last half hour. This whole movie is a weird art house piece, but it all has one big story, and it's really cool. It's all visually told. There's like no dialogue. It's all stop motion. This is the kind of movie that shouldn't work, but it does, and it's so interesting to me why I like it so much. I've only seen it once, and I'm kicking myself for it because I wanted to watch it again before this recording, but like, damn, it's so interesting. I picked up little details the first time. This took like 35 years to make. I forget the exact number. It was like a long gestating thing since like, what, the 80s or something like that? That's like 40 years ago. I really like the end product. I think this is worthy of all the time. This is kind of what happens when you let stop motion people and a lot of animation people have enough time to finish their work. This is what comes of it, and you get rewarded for it because it's fucking awesome. There's a lot of thematic things that I'm just not going to touch on because they're almost spoilers, but I really appreciate what they did in this movie. Barbarian. This movie is awesome. It's in my top 5 of this year. It's so good. I think the performances and the directing are awesome, but what really shines to me is the writing, the pacing, the way you can juggle these separate genres of horror and a little bit of comedy and flex them in and infuse them, but not by infusing them per scene, but like bouncing back and forth. So like the first 40 minutes is like a horror, then it switches genre, and you feel like, am I watching a different movie? That sounds terrible, but the way they make it work, boy does it work. I really like how they infuse them together. Love this movie so much, and I highly recommend it to anybody who likes either horror or comedy. If you like both, this is the perfect film. I think it was really smart of them to cast the Bill Skarsgård character from It, who everyone in pop culture knows as a creepy guy in movies, and they make him that character at the start to give you the impression that he's the villain. I love that. I love what they're doing. That's very on purpose and deliberate, and I see what you're doing. That's cool. That's clever. Weird, the Al Yankovic story. Wow. This movie's awesome. I love what this does in just destroying the biopic genre, the genre I've been talking about this whole time with, oh, Blonde is an underwhelming entry, Elvis is a cliche entry. This literally does the microphone feedback thing when he first performs because he's nervous, but for a joke, in the same year that Elvis did it for serious. Like, what the hell writer of Elvis? I'm sorry to go off on this, but what writer of Elvis was like, oh, bro, if he goes up to the stand, he's gonna say, hey, it's me or whatever, and then it's gonna go feedback, and the audience is gonna be nervous, and the audience, I've seen that in every single biopic ever made, please. So this doing those things, finally, it's a modern Walk Hard the Dewey Cox story. I've been waiting for something like this again because it's been so long, and there have been more that have copied it. So yes, taking shots at everyone in the music industry. I love it so much. I love the on-the-nose dialogue just to, like, purposely make you like, oh, yeah, fucking course they're going to say that. Like, it's just great. And then Madonna taking over Pablo Escobar's drug ring in the third act. It's fucking brilliant. Daniel Radcliffe, I cannot sing his praises enough. He is awesome. I know him of Harry Potter fame. I know him of a couple other indie things, like the one where he has guns for hands. But this... Harry Potter heads be damned, but, like, damn, this might be his best performance. I love what he did here. It's awesome. Bullet Train, I missed this in theaters, but I was able to see it before it hit Netflix, kind of in that weird window of time. I really like this movie. I like it for what it is, because it is mainly just an action comedy, just having fun. It's one of the John Wick directors, so obviously the action's going to be top-notch, and oh, lo and behold, the action's top-notch. It's a little too goofy, hoopy-doopy for me, but if that makes any sense. But what I really appreciate about it, what kind of pulled it together to being such a strong movie, is the layered storytelling. And I'm pretty sure that's from the source material because it is really in-depth. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of characters that have unrelated stories that end up being related. And I really appreciate how that is pulled off because that's very hard to pull off. That's a very tricky thing to do and have everything be effective. I'm excited to see more of David Leitch's stuff. He is very talented. Bodies, bodies, bodies. This movie is an awesome, awesome middle finger at the modern generation of people, of which I kind of am a part of, kind of not. I don't know where I am. It's really fun throughout. My main criticism is that because it highlights how annoying people can be, a lot of the characters are annoying, which I get is the point, but as an audience member, why would I want to watch annoying characters? I'm now annoyed by them. All of them, including the main characters. I'll include the protagonists and the antagonists and the side antagonists. All of them really kind of pissing me off. What pulls it together is the ending reveal in like the last like 2-3 minutes when they watch that video. Man, of course, right? Of course. Like, oh man, that's so satisfying. So that just pulled the whole thing together for me. And honestly, you know what? Movie won. That is a win of a movie. Can't beat it. Crimes of the Future. I think this movie is more interested in being weird and crazy visually than it is having a worthwhile story, because it really does feel like the story just ends without any resolution. Like, you barely learn anything about the characters. You barely learn anything about the villains. I don't know. It feels like a pilot episode almost. Like, oh yeah, this is an interesting premise. Tune in next week, but it's just a film. John Carpenter is doing his thing, and he's having a great time. Obviously, you can see that bleed through. No pun intended. But aside from some interesting visuals, it's kind of a nothing sandwich. There's not a whole lot of substance here. 13 Lives. This movie is another Viggo Mortensen film. It is really interesting to see because I didn't know much about this story. I heard about it when it was happening all those years ago, but I didn't know the details of it. Oh my god. While I was watching, I was like halfway through. I was like, there's no way this shit's real. While I'm watching it, pull out my phone, Google the event, looking at the little details, like, oh my god, this is fucking happened? They were trapped that far in that cave? Like, there's all kinds of like little things like that. I love the performances from the main two, although there are a lot more people involved that are also very talented, mainly the kid actors. They barely speak, so it's not a full kid actor pass. Kid actors are usually terrible, but like they're not bad in their roles. I really like the depiction of the real life events. I think that it's just a grim reflection of reality sometimes and how cold and cruel Mother Nature can be. That's my takeaway from the movie anyway. And I think this was done in a really respectful way, and yet in a way where you're invested, because a lot of movies are very tasteful but boring, and a lot of movies are very exciting but disrespectful. And this is walking the fine line of being incredibly respectful while being amazing. Just like a film I'm going to talk about next, Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Holy shit, this movie's awesome. I like it better than the first Black Panther. You know what's really funny? The first time he was introduced was Captain America Civil War. I love that movie, and one of my favorite parts of that movie was T'Challa, Black Panther. I think he was a fascinating character. I loved how he realizes that vengeance has consumed him, but he shouldn't let it consume others, and whatever. I love that whole arc, that aspect of that character, and I was so jazzed up to see the first Black Panther, and then I saw it, and I just feel like T'Challa there wasn't a whole lot to him in that movie. Like Chadwick's doing great. Obviously, Chadwick is an amazing actor, but the character was the least interesting character in his own film. So I watched that movie and I was like, okay, well, at least I can see him, grow in the role in the future. And then he passed away tragically, so we're never going to get to see that T'Challa again. So, leads us to here, Black Panther 2, which is only led by the supporting characters from the first film. And it's fascinating how they being Ryan Coogler, were able to pull this off in such an awesome way, keeping you entertained, keeping you painfully aware of the passing of Chadwick Boseman, but also making a visual medium movie of moving on and grieving over Chadwick Boseman. Like, all the characters are doing it because it's their brother, their fictional brother, but we, as the audience, lost an actual actor who brought a lot of acting talent to the world. And the way this movie toes that line, like I was literally just talking about 13 Lives, I really appreciate the way this was done. I don't know if you could have done this more respectfully. This is peak. This movie was also able to double as being a Marvel movie without being so comedy, jokey, up your butt all the time. Like, there's so many, like, Thor Love and Thunders and Ant-Mans out there that just do this, and it's just really frustrating how they just devolve into, like, being a comedy with some CGI action scenes. They're not even, like, there's nothing to it. And this is just so not that, and they're being rewarded with the box office, which is great. I appreciate that quite a bit. I really like what this movie did with the characters. I'm way more invested in Shuri now than I ever was. I barely remembered her name after the first movie. Angela Bassett deserves a nomination. I'm sorry, but, like, she's incredible. I don't know if she's gonna win. That's a tall order. But, like, shit. If you watch the movie, you know what I'm talking about. Like, goddamn, have I not given everything? It's clips of it in the trailer, but, like, that full monologue. Come on, man. Give the queen her fucking due. She deserves it. Marcel the Shell with shoes on. This movie is adorable in every conceivable way. It is done like a documentary, as if Marcel the Shell is real, and it's so cool and cute, and I don't know. I'm a manly man. I like being full of testosterone. I like hopping on a quad and going through the forest and, ripping mud everywhere and, lightsaber dueling with a cardboard tube when I'm 10 years old. I'm a man, I'm a boy. But fuck, this is the cutest, most adorable movie of all time. Like, shit. Even, like, the most grizzled individual of all time can still watch this movie and be like, oh. Right in the heartstrings, man. X and Pearl. I watched these back to back. I purposely waited until both were out digitally so I could do that. I really like both. I think X is really the winner here. I think Pearl is all right, and I am very excited for Maxine. I like the Mia Goth cinematic universe, which just plays different characters all the time. But no, like, it's a really interesting duology. Is Pearl necessary? No, not at all. I think X explains everything just fine, and that's the strength of it. Movies need to stand on their own if they're going to do stuff like this. So I really appreciate what they both do and how they both tie into each other. They're a great double feature, and they came out the same year. What spin-off comes out the same year as the film? That's fucking awesome. But Army of the Dead, I think, did that. I'm really excited to see more of these. I don't know if they're going to release 2 a year because it is just one guy directing these entire movies. That's, like, a lot of work. We'll see. But I don't know. This is awesome. I love the themes, especially of X. I love the themes of X with lust and desire, and how every single character is involved with that in some way, whether they're obsessed with it or want nothing to do with it or trying not to be hypocritical when they actually do care. I love the themes. I love how they overlap, and I love how it's all tied into a classic slasher while critiquing that entire genre of movie. It's awesome. It's a great movie. Pearl's all right too. Triangle of Sadness. This is a masterpiece with a lackluster ending. And by ending, I mean literally the last minute is the only issue I have with the movie. Everything else is awesome. I think about this movie constantly. I want to tell my friends about it. I want to put it on and force them to watch it and talk about it for an hour. It is so interesting. Even the opening scene with the main couple, talking about how their relationship is transactional. Relate that to what he does with somebody else later on the island. Oh my god. There are so many interesting thematic elements here. Like, I think about it all the time when like the rich guy is on the island. It's the rich Russian accent guy who's overweight, and he's talking to the woman who's getting all the food, and he's like, you know, I have powerful friends, you know, put me back on the island and I'll make you a wealthy person. But then she does not give care because like they're not in the world right now, they're on an island, and she's just like, who's the captain? And then immediately he concedes. He's like, you are. He gets the food. Power dynamics, man. Top tier writing and really strong directing. The fuck, man. If you see that ending, you know what I'm talking about. That's the most like vague bullshit, oh, I don't know how to end it, I'm just gonna end it here kind of ending. Like, come on. Give me a resolution. Just a little. Just a one character's resolution. Fuck you. I'm only so mad because I love the movie so goddamn much. Smile. This movie's really good. I'm surprised at how good it is. My only criticism is that it's the same problem that every movie that does this has, where, okay, the villain, the curse or whatever, the villain, can literally manipulate anything that you see and hear all the time at any point. So how are you supposed to combat that? Like, any scene, you can just say whatever you want to happens, and it's canon, sure, because the villain can just do that. Like, it's the most broken thing. So why should I believe any scene that happens? Why should I invest myself in any scene when it could just be a pile of shit? So aside from that, it's a really well-told story, and it's really well done. Excellent acting, excellent atmosphere. Color grading is really strong. Didn't think I would say that about a kind of movie like this, but like, it's really good. It's a Blumhouse heater, not a Blumhouse pile of shit, like a lot of them. Brahmastra Part 1 Shiva. This movie is ass. Okay, I saw the trailer and I was really into it because, you know, I like RRR, I like the singing movies. This is awful. This movie's terrible. It's so long. It's so pointlessly long. Like, there's no purpose to most of these scenes in the context of the movie. You can cut any random scene out of this movie, it's better for it. Like, the story just flows better. And it so sequel baits so hard. It's even called Part 1 Shiva with nothing else greenlit, nothing else in production. Like, how do you sequel bait air? Like, nothing happening. It's one thing if you shot both back to back. Then you could sequel bait to Kingdom Come because you have the next one coming out in a few months. But holy shit, what am I supposed to do with that ending? You've resolved nothing. You've answered no questions. You've done nothing for me. The effects were okay. That's the redeeming factor here. Way to leave your audience so wildly unsatisfied. The Banshees of Inisherin. Now we're in the category of the year where all of the Oscar bait type movies start to come out. Man, what a great fucking movie. This is like a movie's movie. Like, you want gripping drama, excellent acting, fantastic writing. These two people, these two individuals, these two actors that are just back and forth the whole movie. And you see them individually from each other at different points talking to their own supporting cast, but whenever they're together on screen, just talking, just having a conversation. It's the most gripping fucking thing. It's fascinating. And I love how it just escalates and it builds and builds and builds until finally you get that entire ending. And just that quick line of dialogue. I think the last word of the movie is anytime or something like that. When you see it, you know why. Oh, it says so much about the nature of people and what we want to do with our lives and what we want to be. Just the more I think about it, the more I like the movie. The Menu. This movie is actually really good. The trailers looked kind of silly and goofy and like over the top. And the movie is to an extent all those things, but it's also really well done. It is an anatomy of criticism in a way. And it's doing that with food and food criticism, but it's relating that to, say, any like film criticism, any media that you could criticize, and the art of what that is, if that is even an art, because the movie calls that into question. There's so much going on here. There's so much thematically, but it's all wrapped into this really gripping story with these awesome performances. And when I say awesome, I mean the whole cast is awesome, but one man in particular named Ray Fiennes shines in this movie. This is his movie, even though he's the villain. It is awesome. It is an excellently told movie. I love it so much, and I love thinking about it, and I love the entire third act and the entire resolution. It's just so strong. But even this third act isn't even what's important. It's the build-up. It's the tension as the dishes keep coming out. It's course after course after course, and they just keep upping the ante. Glass Onion. You know this movie's awesome. You already know. I love the first Knives Out. It's awesome. This, and I waited long enough to see if this was recency bias. It's not. This is better. And I love the first Knives Out. That should tell you a lot about this movie. This movie is so thematically fascinating. It is literally Rian Johnson and Daniel Craig looked at what made the first movie work, and they were like, okay, let's improve even more, even though we've already made an awesome movie, and make an even better version of that movie. And I think Daniel Craig does even better as Benoit Blanc because he's growing with the character, and Rian Johnson is doing even better with his own story because he's like, oh, I know what worked and what didn't, even though nothing didn't work because it was a fucking awesome movie in the first place. And they're just taking it to new levels. Glass Onion is the only correct title for this movie. It is a title that works on like 5 different levels when you analyze it thematically. It's now on Netflix. I saw this in theaters. I was fortunate enough to get it in that 1 week little window, unlike the goddamn Whale, which released in half a theater for 4 minutes, so I fucking missed it. But my god, this movie is awesome. Please go see it. I highly encourage movies like this getting success. Disenchanted. I really like the first Enchanted more than most. It's like a comfort movie. If it's on, I'm always happy to see it. And this movie follows it up in strange creative decisions because it's been more than 10 years since the first one, but they pretend like 10 years have gone by. And I think that's just so that they can like have the child go through high school, teenage problems instead of, her being in her 20s, which would be more realistic. In fact, that's why they recast her, because the actual actress that played that girl is in her 20s. Duh. So I don't know. I question some of the creative decisions behind it, but my god, all of the actors who come back from this first movie, every single one, it's like they didn't miss a beat. It's like this was shot a day after they finished shooting Enchanted Part 1. Like, they're all back, all full force. They're all bringing their A game. They're all bringing their classic charm. And Amy Adams is awesome. Patrick Dempsey is awesome. James Marsden, who, is highly overlooked in that first Enchanted movie, is back even better. Shit. I don't know. To see them all back again, even if the movie isn't as good, man, it just hits you right in the heart. But I also accredit that a lot to how good the first one is, not quite the second. So it's kind of riding that senior. I didn't know this movie existed until it dropped on Netflix, and it was in the now released section. It's like, whoa, holy shit, why didn't I ever see a trailer for this? So it's really emotionally powerful. It's the second best documentary this year. I think Our Father is more gripping, but that's a whole different story. You think about it and you get so happy and yet so sad, depending on what part you're thinking about, because they're all tied back to Robert Downey Sr. and his life, specifically the end of his life, and man, it is moving. It's impactful. Please, if you're any kind of a fan of Robert Downey Jr., which you probably are, because Sr. is not as popular as a director as RDJ is an actor, please, this story is worth being told and seen by a lot of people. This is an excellent movie. Slumberland. This movie blows. 365 Days, the next 365 Days. Yeah, this is the less good sequel to 365 Days. I don't know. Not as sexy, what can I say? Christmas Class Reunion. I have a girlfriend at all, which means that I legally have to watch at least 1 to 2 Hallmark movies per year the Christmas season. Luckily, I just got out with one. Wow, man, it's just every cliche or trope or anything, any criticism towards Hallmark movies that people say about them. No, they're not even stereotypes. They're just facts. The one saving grace, which is literally just the 1 out of 10 that I have over here, is just how hot this fucking guy was. Emancipation. This is a powerful movie with a lot of really excellent performances, mostly Will Smith, just carrying this movie. This movie's really good other than him as well. I shouldn't use the word carrying, but my god. This is an awesomely directed movie. The only thing that I question are the length of certain scenes, specifically even down to shots. Establishing shots will go on for 20, 25 seconds. It's why? I know where we are. We're nowhere else other than the South. I get it. It's the woods. How many The Woods could there possibly be? What more could you even add by filming more of The Woods? I don't know. There are a lot of scenes that just keep going and going and going. And it's they were okay, well, we have all this footage. Let's just not cut any of it out. It's no, you could have had a really, really killer movie if you trimmed it down. But I don't know. I think it's worth watching just for Will Smith alone. I think we're far enough removed from the slap where he's going to be accepted enough in culture to, be able to do this again. I hope he gets nominated and wins and can't even fucking accept it, because fuck that guy. Troll. This movie is, visual effects-wise, really well done. It looks really cool. The writing is so poor and so cheap and cheesy and goofy. Man, it could have been so cool. And it is cool to see. It is visually an interesting movie. If you were into giant monster movies, which I wholeheartedly am, it is worth your time. But like, no, this just ain't it. Avatar: The Way of Water. This is the latest movie that I've seen in the year. This, I'll just say it, this is the best visual effects I've ever seen in a film. This is the best. You know, every so often, every like 5 or 6 years, something will come out and just push the boundaries of what visual effects are. Like, the prequels of Star Wars did that. And the first Avatar did that all those years ago. But now here we are again. Yeah, no, this is the best one. I think it's a better story than the first one, even though the story isn't much better because it's very cliche and it's using a lot of like tropes and a lot of easy emotional investment, like, oh yeah, the bad guys are evil because they're evil and they want to destroy all of the life because of the thing that they get from them, and they just so don't care that they say they don't care and they show that they don't care. Oh yeah, I don't care at all about this marine life. We're gonna destroy this marine life. Oh, where's Jake Sully? Kill all the villagers. Like, it's very basic writing to just easily invest you in wanting to kill them. But I say all of that as if the third act, when righteous vengeance is reached and achieved, as if that's not the greatest thing in the whole world and so satisfying. Like, it's a double-edged sword, because, like, yeah, they're using these basic things, but who am I to criticize? They worked. Like, fuck, this movie's awesome. I gave it a 9 in the review. It's far removed enough. I think that was recency bias. I think far removed is 8. I think we're good with that. But it's still a great score. It's still a great movie. I think anybody, anywhere, for any reason, should have a reason to see this. It's really good. It's really strong. And I hope it makes shitloads of money so they can keep making those sequels, baby. Because there's so much more to this story that is wildly unresolved, which is kind of annoying, but it is what it is. So that's it. That's everything I saw. And I'll catch you guys in 1 year to do this all again. One quick thing. I didn't actually see this movie, but my grandfather is in I Want to Dance with Somebody, and this is his review.